That was Gabby and Nia Ennison doing an original piece by our very own Yvette Brandy. So give it up for the two of them. And sharing the love for our beloved Yvette as well. Yvette and her family are back east traveling. I wanted to let you know that her son's orchestra took gold in Carnegie Hall last week. So, yes. So how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? And what amazing, talented young people she has. It's just such a joy and delight that they are part of our beloved family and our beloved community here. So welcome to Easter Sunday. It is the third Sunday in April, already April 21st. Wow, this time is going by so quickly. This whole year is just kind of flashing by. And this year, we're working with the theme of spirituality in action. And specifically this month, we've been working with the theme of promoting diversity and inclusion and taking a look at what that looks like. And before we get into the rest of today, let's start with our focus statement there, shall we? All right, so vim, vigor, vitality, vivaciousness, and all the other V's of voluptuousness and all the other V's. Here we go. We embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. Did you feel that? I did. Wow. And what better way than that to start our Sunday time together? So today is Easter, and for much of the Christian world, at least the non-Orthodox part of the Christian world, for much of the Christian world, today marks Easter. So today marks the day of the resurrection of the Christ. Now, it's not resurrection of Jesus Christ because it's not a last name. It's the Christ. It's a title. It means the anointed one. The Messiah means the anointed one. And what we know and what we teach here in our faith tradition of Centers for Spiritual Living, what we know is that the Christ, Jesus the Christ, was a great master teacher. He was the great example, or a great example, not just a great example, but he was not the great exception. Because what we know is that within each one of us, the Christ consciousness lives, the Buddha consciousness lives, because what we know is that these things and greater shall you do, right? And so we know that we are one with the one, that we are one with the divine, that the who of who we are is the divine made manifest. The who of who we are is the Christ consciousness itself. It is love, it is oneness, it is wholeness, it is fullness, it is the isness that is the allness. Woohoo! Right? And so what we know is that there is no sin. We were not born of eternal sin. We are born of eternal love. That sin is nothing more than missing the mark, if you will. That's really what it means. It's an archery term. It just means missing the mark. That's all sin is. So we are not born of original sin. We are born of original love. We are born of eternal love. That is who we are. And how does that feel in your body? How does that resonate with you? Now, it doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. We know we do. And then we have the opportunity, right, to recognize the mistake, to look and see a new way of living and a new way of being, to change our ideas, to change our thoughts, to change how we show up in the world. And when we change how we're showing up in the world, guess what? The world shows up differently too, doesn't it? Yeah. So without a crucifixion, without a death, there cannot be a resurrection. There cannot be a new life, if you will, if we don't first experience death. If we don't first die to our old ways of being and die to our old ideas and die to our old thoughts, our old beliefs, our old habits. We die to these and then we enter into that tomb time, that quiet time, where that which is within us is coming forth to be born again, or to be born anew, to be born into a new life, into a new way of being. This is the creative process at work, yes? That when we watch the seasons, the flowers die so that they may be born again in the spring. That the trees go inward, they turn within. They lose their leaves and they turn within in the wintertime, so that they once again may be reborn and come alive again, what appears to become alive again in the springtime. But yet they're never dead. The tree outside, look how beautiful it is now. Look at those leaves. You know, in wintertime, it's kind of, we enter into that stick season, you know, where it's kind of like scraggly and everything out there. But look how beautiful our new symbol is up there as well. Yeah. The vision come forward. So it's no coincidence that life happened this week for me, right? Anybody else have life happen for them this week? Yes. Yeah. Yeah, several times. So, you know, I've been saying that life has been in session, but you know what? Life's always in session, isn't it? Life's always in session. It's whether we're paying attention or not, right? So, this week, I had a couple of beloveds come to me and sit with me and honor me with their presence. And we got to examine our statement there, that we embolden people to live their highest potential through the transformative power of love. And that's not necessarily how the conversation started. But the upshot is that these beloveds came to me and ministered to me and gave me the opportunity to see where I have been in error, to see where I have been amiss, to see where I have been blinded, where I have not been paying attention, to where I have been ignorant. And so the gift that they presented me was the opportunity to embolden me to live my highest potential in a greater way. And how did they do that? It's right there too. Through the transformative power of love. They recognized that there was an opportunity for growth here for me. And they came to me bearing message, bearing witness to truth. And for that, I'm very, very, very grateful. You see, intention equals not impact. Intention doesn't equal impact. We may have really good intentions. I did. But our intentions don't always have the impact that we expect or the impact that we desire. And you know what? The intention, while it's important, is nowhere near as important as the impact. Let me say it again. The intention, no matter how well-intentioned, no matter how well-meaning, does not begin to have the importance as the impact. Just because, as Ernest Holmes says, just because we are ignorant of the law does not exempt us from its effect. Just because we don't necessarily know how to use the law does not exempt us from the effect of law. Just because we might not know how to use the creative principle or use the power of mind does not exempt us from the effect that we experience in the world. Would you agree? Yeah. And so, while I had no malintent, I was ignorant. I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't aware of my actions. I wasn't aware of how my actions were being perceived. And so I had to step back. And I had to listen. Listen deeply. Listen with my whole heart and my whole being to the love, to the gift that was being presented before me, that was being shared with me. And as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. And so this was a gift for me to know. This was an opportunity for me to grow. And now that I know better, it is my responsibility to do better. And so I am grateful for that which has been shared with me this week. I had to be made aware so that I could die to an old way of being. So that I could begin to see the pattern of behavior. So I could begin to see the pattern of thinking that I was previously blinded to. To die to the old way and enter into that tomb time of contemplation, of being conscious of how I wanted to emerge, how I was being called forth, being called higher to a higher state of consciousness, to a higher state of inclusion, to a higher state of awareness, previously unknown to me before. And so I called this the stone of ignorance, because each one of us has the opportunity on a daily basis to die daily. Joel Goldsmith talks about dying daily. That we die daily to the old so that the new may be born again. And really that is what we teach here in this center, is that we have the opportunity to let go of those things that no longer served us, to put them in the past, if you will, to simply let them return to the nothingness from which they came, and to change our thought, to change the way we are thinking, to change the way we are believing, and enter something new. That is what we have the opportunity to do. We have the opportunity to create, once again, another first cause, a first cause, and plant that cause into the seed, or plant that seed into the soil, plant that into the divine mind, into the divine consciousness, to allow something new to emerge. If we don't like what we're seeing, if we don't like what we're experiencing, we have the opportunity in every moment of every day to die daily to the old, and to create, to plant a new seed, to plant a new idea in the consciousness, into the sea of consciousness, and allow that to take root, and to nurture it, and to grow it. That is the opportunity that we have on a daily basis. And that is what we are talking about when we talk about the resurrection story, the crucifixion and the tomb time and the resurrection story. This story is not unique to Christianity. The god Mithras, the Persian god Mithras, dies and is renewed, as resurrected 3 days later. The Egyptian god Horus dies and 3 days later is resurrected. The Greek goddess Persephone dies and goes into the underworld and returns and spends half of her life above ground and half of her life in the underworld. Esther, the Saxon god of rebirth, the Saxon goddess of birth and newness and vitality, whose name we get Easter from, is a Saxon goddess of fertility, of birth, of rebirth. So it's not new. And so when we see that it's not limited to just one faith tradition, what we see is that there is an underlying mythology, that there is an underlying truth here that is resonant with all of us and for all of us, that there is that message for all of us. And that message is that we do have the opportunity every single day to die to what used to be, to die to what was, and to awaken and be reborn into what is yet to be, into what we choose to experience. So we get to roll away the stone of ignorance. We get to roll away the blind spots, the limitations, as Constance so beautifully spoke in her invocation. We get to roll away the fear, the lack, the limitation, the smallness, the otherness, the separation. We get to roll all that away if we are willing to do so. If we are willing to have a life divine, then we must be willing to allow that which has been to simply fall away. We get to turn away from what was and turn toward what can be and what shall be and what already is. Breathe that in. So what is it in this moment that you are willing to let go of now? What idea? What belief? What limitation? What sense of lack are you willing to surrender in this moment? Breathe it in. And as you exhale, exhale it through your feet. Exhale that false belief through your feet into the floor. Allow that idea to simply melt, to simply be reabsorbed by Mother Earth. And once again, turning within, what is the high idea that you wish to experience in this moment? Because the universe abhors a vacuum. So as something is released, it creates a space for something to come in. And so what is it? What is the high idea that you're choosing to accept in your life in this moment? That you are welcoming. That you are saying yes to. That you are being born into, if you will. And as you breathe it out through the top of your head. And with the next breath, breathe it out through your heart space. Reverend Michael Beckwith says that 100% of spiritual growth is letting go, is rolling away the stone, letting go of the limitations, letting go of the lack, letting go of that which holds us back. So on this Easter Sunday, are you willing to let go? Are you willing to let go? Do I need to call my friend Ms. Warwick? Are you willing to let go?
Yes.
Are you willing to embrace your good?
Yes.
Emma Curtis Hopkins says, your good is your God, my good is my God. So are you ready to embrace your God?
Yes.
And where does God dwell? In here, and here, and here. It is everywhere present, always. We can never ever be separated from it. We are always one with it. We live, move, breathe, and have our being in and as it, and it in and as us. And sometimes we forget. And in those times, we have the opportunity to come together in community, to sit in front of each other, to sit together in community as the beloved meeting the beloved and saying, hey, Reverend Jeffrey, I see you. Reverend Jeffrey, I call you higher. Reverend Jeffrey, I know you see me too. And that is the transformation that takes place. It is the opening in the communication. It is the opening in the ability to share with one another, to be present in each other's presence, to sit with the divine. When we say namaste, the divine in me recognizes the divine in you. Yes, that's true. And then last week we also talked about Ubuntu. Because you are, I am. There is that interdependence. And so it was this absolutely divine intervention, if you will, a divine coming together in that moment of recognizing our interdependence, of recognizing the love that we share, the love that we are never separated from each other. And it was an opportunity to go deeper in that. And it was an opportunity to go higher in consciousness and to expand. 3 weeks ago, we lost a modern-day prophet. He was also 33 years old. He also was making a difference in the community. He also was speaking truth to power. He also was working to improve life on the planet. He was also working to improve the life of his community. He was using his voice and platform to change and make a difference and have a great impact in the community. His name is Nipsey Hussle. He was a metaphysician, like you and me, speaking his truth, speaking the same idea of we can change our circumstances by changing our thinking. We can improve our lives by having a goal rather than a pipe dream. We can prove the principle at work by working the principle. By hustling, if you will. And in this song, Bigger Than Life, it's quite prophetic. The world would not know Jesus Christ if there was never Judas. This knife that's in my back, it'd be the truth that introduced us, and the distance between us, it's the proof of my conclusion. How many of us knew who Nipsey Hussle was before this tragic loss? Right? A few. How many of you heard his name only after March 31st? How many of you may be hearing his name for the first time this morning? Yeah. Life was in session when that happened. Life was in session for me. I saw it come across Facebook. I didn't know who he was. I knew that there was an impact, but I didn't take time to really learn and investigate and see what it was that was going on. What it was, what his life meant to so many people, and so many people in our own community. And life being in session is not an excuse. It simply was. But I missed an opportunity 3 weeks ago to speak of him, to speak of his life, to speak of the contributions that he has made on the planet, and now the contributions he continues to make. He gave back to his community. He's a former gang member who left, who made it, and then who chose to turn and use the position and the platform that he earned. It wasn't just handed to him, that he earned. To then turn around and give back to the community, to then try to help those who did not have what he had, to give to those that which he wished he himself had. He created a program for STEM, for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, thank you, in South LA, to begin bridging the gap between South LA and Silicon Valley. Powerful stuff, life-changing stuff. The day he was supposed to meet the president of the police, the Los Angeles police, on April 1st. He never got to make that meeting. The meeting was about gun violence and how to stop it. And yet, what I know is that the work that he began continues. And we have the opportunity here in Riverside and here in this community to see him, to see each other, and to continue the work that has already been started. To continue in his legacy. To continue to walk by his example. I was just reading the other day that one of the men who was shot, the first man who was shot when Nipsey was killed, the first man who was shot was out on parole. And Nipsey had helped this man through this man's sister, Mr. Lathan. And Mr. Lathan took a selfie with Nipsey because he's a star, right? That selfie landed him back in jail because he was associating with a known gang member. Because Nipsey had never been removed from the Cal Gang's website, had never been removed from the list of known gang members. So Mr. Lathan committed no crime, did nothing wrong, back in jail. Right? What's wrong with this picture? A whole lot is wrong with this picture. He has since been freed. He was freed yesterday, I believe. But it was because of people using their voices and people realizing just the extremity of how wrong this is and how stacked the system is and how institutionalized the racism is, that it was brought to light. It's continually being brought to light. And there is much more work to be done. Now, honestly, to be real honest, even if my life hadn't been in session, I don't know that I would have heard of Nipsey Hussle. Because I wasn't paying attention. Because I was ignorant. Because I was able to sit back in the place that I live, in the bubble that I live, and choose whether I see him or not. So I don't know. I can't say how I would have reacted, how I would have responded, if I would have responded or would have reacted in any other way other than what I did. Okay, and keep scrolling on Facebook. I don't know. I don't know. But because these beloveds came to me and shared with me their pain, shared with me the missed opportunity, shared with me that I was blind, shared with me that I was not seeing, shared with me that I was ignorant, I now see. I'm now aware. I'm now even more awake. I'm paying attention. Because this was the opportunity that was presented. This was the opportunity for growth. And I accept it. I accept the gift. Because that's truly what it was. Because these beloveds cared so much about this community, and these beloveds cared so much about me, and these beloveds cared so much about how we as a community in Riverside and as Riverside Center for Spiritual Living show up in the world, they stepped forward. They spoke truth. And I am grateful. And so where do we go from here? I stand before you open and available. I stand before you willing to do the work. I stand before you willing to listen, willing to hear, willing to show up differently. This has been my prayer all along. A multi-ethnic, a multicultural, a multi-community, a multi-ministry. And how beautiful it is to look out onto this crowd and see each and every face, the face of love, the face of life, the face of the divine. And so I am humbled, and I am grateful to stand before you and to stand with you. And together, we move forward in emboldening each other to live our highest potential, and to doing so with a commitment of doing it through the transformative power of love. And so let me leave you with these words. So life is what you make it. I hope you make a movement. Hope your opportunity survives the opportunist. Hoping as you walk across the sand, you see my shoe print, and you follow till it change your life. It's all an evolution. Nipsey Hussle. And so it is. Ubuntu. So I invite our spiritual practitioners to please stand and surround the sanctuary. I invite our core council to please do the same. And so let's come together in consciousness. I recognize that there is only one life, one power, one presence, one infinite, eternal. This one I call God, this one I call love, this one I call joy, this one I call peace. But it is the oneness that is back of all diversity. And there is this unity in diversity itself. There is this oneness that is the spiritual back of all of creation. From this oneness, of this oneness, out of this oneness, all of creation was brought forward. All of life. So I recognize that all of life is the life divine made manifest. And as this is true for all of creation, this is true of me, this is true of myself. I recognize that I am one with the one, that the who of who I am is the divine made manifest. That the life divine lives, moves, breathes, and has its being in, through, and as me, and out into the world. That I stand open, a vessel through which the divine makes its love known. I am one with the love, I am one with the power, and I am one with the presence. And as I know that this is true of me, I know that this is true of all of life, of all of creation. That each life, each person is the beloved made manifest. Each person is the divine made manifest. Each person at the root of who each and every one is the oneness of the one life. And so I speak my word here and now, celebrating this diversity, celebrating the inclusion that happens when we come together and we speak our truth, when we speak truth to power, when we avail ourselves and make ourselves open to clear communication. That when we set aside our ideas of lack and limitation, our ideas of otherness, our ideas of separateness, that what is right there in the center of everything, in the center of everyone, is the power and the presence of love, is the wholeness and the perfection and the divinity that is all as all. I so honor and am just in awe of the beauty of this community, of the love that is present in this community, and the willingness of each one to be here by divine appointment, to do the work that is ours to do in the world, to be that power and presence of change, to be the change agents, to be the prophets in our own time, if you will. I am so grateful for each and every person saying yes to the call upon their individual life, their individualized life, because there truly is only the one life. I am grateful for the love that is manifest in and through and as this community. I am grateful for the work that we do in the world together and individually. I am grateful for the love that we share, the life that we share. I'm just grateful for the opportunity in this community for us to grow up all over each other, to be present with one another. I am grateful for the opportunity to see the divine in the other, in each other, recognizing the oneness that is back of all. And so I know that on this day, this holy day, that we simply let fall away that which no longer serves. And we step into a new life, step into a new way of being, step into a higher consciousness, rooted in love, rooted in oneness. And I release this word knowing that it is done. And so it is.